Welcome to the Resistance, and what you just watched was a piece of propaganda that was made by the DHS and published on October 2nd, 2025, in response to what was called Operation Midway Blitz in Illinois. This is an operation where DHS descended from Black Hawk helicopters into an apartment building and violated the rights of about 130 people that live there. And what's crazy is that there's been a development in this story. This article was published by pro-publica on November 13th, 2025. And the gist of it was basically that out of the 37 people that were arrested that day, none of them have any criminal charges. And remember, the whole justification behind this raid was that this building had been taken over by a TDA gang. They had weapons and explosives, and they were terrorizing the people in the building. And upon the raid, they had arrested 2 people who they thought were TDA members. But it turns out that the government has not provided any evidence that these people are TDA. And again, of the 37 people that were arrested, zero, have any criminal charges against them. And so, one can only conclude that DHS is lying, is absolutely lying about TDA gang members being here in this apartment building, or probably wherever else they claim they're arresting TDA members. You could probably consider that a lie. I have no reason to believe or trust this government when it tells me things anymore, because they are practicing governance in bad faith and are violating our constitutional rights and are justifying their extreme use of violence by saying people are violent gang members, rapists, the worst of the worst, even though these people may just be regular people like you and me who just live in worse circumstances just because that's how their life is. In this ProPublica article, it's a 30-minute read or listen. I'm going to link it in the comment. Please read it. It is a phenomenal article, and they go into depth about pretty much every detail of the raid, the stories of the people that were raided too as well. And I went ahead and grabbed a couple quotes that I'm just going to read for you, just so you can see the level of cruelty and inhumanity that DHS is operating at. All right, so this one says, after the raid, at least 17 Venezuelan men were bused to the Clay County Jail near Terra Huata, Indiana. Colmenares, a person who was arrested, said he wasn't allowed to use the bathroom all morning and urinated on himself during the 3.5-hour drive to jail. Like, what the fuck is that? You can't let a person piss in a pot? You know? And then this next quote here: the Venezuelan women and children detained at the building were taken to an immigration processing center. At least 4 of the mothers and their children, some U.S. citizens, were released later that day. So this is not only happening to people who are illegal, this is happening to people who are U.S. citizens. So people who have every right to be here and enjoy all the perks of being a U.S. citizen, okay? They're also being detained, arrested, whatever you want to call it. I know there's a difference. Here's another quote here. Pero's girlfriend said she was put on an ankle monitor and told to get her daughter's U.S. passport so that they could be returned to Venezuela. She went back to her apartment and was infuriated to discover that it had been ransacked by other tenants who could walk in because the door had been knocked down. I was left without clothes, without a bed, without my daughter's crib, she said, and they took my partner away from me. And 2 weeks later, she returned to Venezuela with her daughter. So, terrible story here. In this lady's case, ICE came in, knocked down her door without a warrant, took her husband or boyfriend away, arrested her and her daughter, told her to go to get her passport so that they could return to Venezuela. And I think her partner is currently sitting in a prison here in the States. It's so cruel. So yeah, You want to talk about separating families? There you go. Separating families, taking everything that they have away from them. It's just a level of cruelty that should not be permissible in the States here. Now I'm going to play a video of Todd Lyons. He is the acting ICE director. And this was an interview that was done on October 14th, and he talks about this whole raid. Okay. Let's go ahead and play this.
That South Shore, that apartment complex in South Shore on the south side of the city that was raided by ICE. This is something that has been used this week as an illustration of ICE's heavy-handed tactics, quote unquote unconstitutional tactics. Do you want to address what went down with that the raid on that apartment complex?
Sure, 100%. So that was a targeted criminal operation based on intelligence and federal warrants between Customs and Border Protection, Homeland Security Investigations, and the FBI. Now,
okay, so the government has yet to produce any warrants to the public. The government has yet to produce any evidence of TDA gang members. The government has yet to produce any evidence at all of anything that they are claiming as reasons for conducting this ICE raid. So they are, again, conducting these operations in bad faith, and they're lying to the American public, because they say one thing to the public and they say another thing in court. All right? So why would they do this? They're doing this so that when the public sees their cruelness and the violence, their justifications for it will somehow soothe the mind of the public. Oh, they're just gang members. Oh, they're just rapists. Oh, they're just the worst of the worst. When in reality, these are just people like you and me. Maybe some have some bad pasts or arrests. Maybe some, sure. But the majority, they're probably innocent.
what a lot of it's not being reported is the fact that this was turned into an abandoned apartment complex on the south side that Tren De Aragua TDA gang members had taken over, where we had intelligence that they had weapons, explosives, and were occupying many of the vacant apartments in there.
So, again, they have yet to produce any evidence that there's TDA gang members in here, any evidence that they found weapons or explosives. Okay, now this was a dilapidated building, but again, that doesn't justify anything.
Pretty much terrorizing the poor residents that were still there. So when law enforcement has any intelligence like that, when we're facing known gang members that are now designated a foreign terrorist organization, of course we are going to go in with our SWAT teams and our special operations teams. Now, what came out of...
So you notice what they said there? Now when they know they have gang members, which are now classified as terrorist organizations, these people have to act. But these people weren't gang members. The only thing that they happened to be was brown and illegal and Venezuelan. So these brown illegal Venezuelans are assumed to be gang members, which are assumed to be terrorists. And because they're terrorists, you can strip their rights away? Okay, give me a break, Todd Lyon, you lying piece of shit.
that, instead of being thankful for us taking back that apartment complex and getting rid of those known gang members, we get accused of separating families. We get accused of zip tying children.
Which you did.
You know, there was a horrible photo that went around, you know, whether it was AI or some other situation that had nothing to do with us. Yet we get accused of that, right? Like any law enforcement mission.
All right, I've had enough of that guy. But yes, there was eyewitness testimony of ICE agents separating children from their family members and ICE agents zip tying children. That is eyewitness testimony. There's court filings about this stuff. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's fabricated. There seems to be some validity to the testimony. Now, the AI picture, I think that was a real story where someone was circulating a picture of a child that was zip tied, but it had been AI generated. It wasn't real. Anyways, just because you see something that's fake doesn't mean the story isn't true. All right. Now, if you go to the DHS website, they have this thing called a smorgasbord of lies where they address, I guess, apparently lies that are being told about DHS. All right, and so one of the claims here that they have is here's a claim that people are saying. So it says below are just a few lies told by Governor Pritzker. Claim unconstitutional invasion of Illinois by the federal government. True. Pritzker told them not to come, specifically not Border Patrol, but the National Guard. He told them for weeks to not federalize them, and they did so anyways. But I think courts stopped that. For weeks now, Donald Trump, Kristi Noem, and Gregory Bovino have brought their militarized ZBP and ICE agents to the streets of Chicago to cause violence and chaos in the city. True. But they say the actual reality is that this is neither unconstitutional nor an invasion. President Trump has the authority under the Constitution to deploy troops, whether they're stationed to defend federal facilities from attacks, whether it's the ICE facility in Broadview or the courthouse in Portland. We will defend federal property wherever they are under siege. Okay, so this doesn't really address the fact that they violated the rights of 130 people in that apartment building that they raided. They have not provided any federal warrants that they used to justify that raid. If they had warrants, it would have been a targeted operation. But the fact that they had to arrest every single person living in that building means that it was just a fishing expedition. They had no idea who was in there. And everything they told the media was absolutely bullshit. It was all a lie. It says here that the raiding neighborhoods, so another claim is the raiding neighborhoods where instead of going after the bad guys, they're just picking up people who are brown and black and then checking their credentials, which is true, which is exactly what happened in Chicago and all around the states. And it says here that in reality, since it began, ICE officers have arrested more than 1,000 illegal aliens, including the worst of the worst pedophiles, child abusers, kidnappers, gang members, and armed robbers. You see how they're describing these people? Okay? Every single one of them? Come on. We have also arrested multiple members of the gang Tren De Aragua and illegal aliens with criminal histories that include drug trafficking, child rape, and murder, among other violent convictions. Allegations that the DHS law enforcement officers engage in racial profiling are disgusting, reckless, and categorically false. What makes someone a target for immigration enforcement is that they are illegally in the U.S., not their skin color, race, or ethnicity. Under the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, DHS law enforcement uses reasonable suspicion to make arrests. There are no indiscriminate stops being made. The Supreme Court recently vindicated us on this question. Okay. That's bullshit. They're saying that they're not using race. Okay? But they are. They are racially profiling. And the Supreme Court said that it's okay to do that. So, yes, the Supreme Court vindicated DHS by saying you may racially profile people. All right, so let me go ahead and show you the actual Supreme Court ruling here. All right, so to be clear, apparent ethnicity alone cannot furnish reasonable suspicion. Just wait. Under this court's case law regarding immigration stops, however, it can be a relevant factor when considered along with other salient factors. And so what may those other salient factors be? Could it be that they may speak with an accent? Could it be that they may dress a certain way? Could it be that they hang out at a certain spot? So you're at Home Depot and you're brown, you must be illegal. You speak with a little bit of an accent and you're brown, you might be illegal. Okay, my father, he's a naturalized citizen. He's a U.S. citizen. He's lived here over 28 years now. He speaks with an accent, and he's brown, and he likes to sell at flea markets. I mean, those are salient factors, right? He's brown, speaks with an accent, hangs out at flea markets where there's many immigrants there. Fuck. That gives ICE every right to stop my father and to question him and ask about his papers, violate his rights. And so this Supreme Court decision is bullshit, by the way. Uh, there was some dissents that said, like, this is insane, right? So let's see. Sonia Sotomayor, joined by Justice Kagan and Jackson, says that the Fourth Amendment thus prohibits exactly what the government is attempting to do here: seize individuals based solely on a set of facts that describe a very large category of presumably innocent people. And earlier, the underlying injunction barred detentive stops based solely upon apparent race or ethnicity, speaking Spanish or speaking English with an accent, presence at a particular location, the type of work one does. These parts emphasize that the profiling targeted people based on apparent race or ethnicity, among other factors. So yeah, DHS is racially profiling. Okay? And let me show you what a ruling like this does, the impact it actually has in real life. And so this is North Carolina. This guy, he's an American citizen, but he speaks with an accent, okay? And he was stopped by ICE. And we're going to go ahead and listen to his story here.
He say,
Still, yeah, they'll probably be out there eventually. Yeah.
right here, put in the car, 10 minutes from here, I say, hey, I got my papers with me. I'm USA citizen. He say, my right ID is in my wallet. He don't hear me. Okay, I get to 10 minutes from here. He put on the computer something like that, and she say, oh, everything is good, everything is good. Stop, say, okay, get out. 10 minutes from here. You know, hey, give me right to my car. My car is start armed, you know. When I come here, I don't have the key. He take the officer take out when I coming out. But that's crazy because around to me, and the first time is the American, the white people, the black people, and one lady Korean. I say, why you ask it just to me? Ask the other people too. You trying to find for Latinos? No, for everybody, and it's illegal in here. Say, okay, the black one, white, and Chinese. Why just to me?
Because he's brown and he speaks with an accent. That's it, even though he's a U.S. citizen. And so a ruling like that is going to have impacts like this all across the states, where you're going to have people who are U.S. citizens, who are brown, but who speak poor English, broken English, English with an accent, that are going to be stopped by ICE. And look, I understand there needs to be immigration control, but the way DHS is doing stuff now is absolutely insane. And it's also, I feel like it's just unconstitutional, just by the way that they're violating the Fourth Amendment. They're breaking into people's houses without warrants. I mean, it's crazy. Pay attention to the stories that start coming out, because you're going to hear probably more stories about how they're catching TDA members. Like, somehow there's TDA members in every fucking city. They've infested every fucking city, and they just happen to be Democrat-run cities. I mean, come on. I feel like it's that joke of like, it's like I can picture Christy Nome talking to a therapist and being like, we got to take down all these TDA gang members, and then the therapist says, is TDA in the room with us right now? I mean, it's that kind of thing where it's like, I just almost feel like it's just some fictitious boogeyman that they're using to justify and rationalize the level of violence and lawlessness that ICE is operating at. And so I hope this comes to a stop soon. This is bad. Anyways, have a good rest of your night. Sleep good. Love yourself and love your family. Peace.